Yellow Productions presents 10 Reasons to Visit Downtown Los Angeles. I'm Chris, and this is your first time here. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, turn on notifications. You'll be notified of these live streams every Monday. So let's get down to business. So downtown LA. So while downtown Los Angeles used to really be an eyesore and a no man's land kind of in Los Angeles, it's really becoming quite a great travel destination. So in this video, I'll give you 10 reasons why you should travel to Los Angeles, in particular downtown Los Angeles while you're coming to LA. I'd like to thank Brigham Yen for this idea. He's actually got a little TED Talk on YouTube called DTLA Rising. By the way, the acronym for downtown Los Angeles is DTLA, which you probably saw in the thumbnail of this video. And he's also got a blog and a Facebook page all about how downtown LA is like getting better and cooler. So if you're interested in watching that after this video, link in the description below. Also, one of the cards on this video has more information on it. So let's get started. Number one, the first reason to visit downtown Los Angeles is about the food. Downtown Los Angeles is a great food destination, and you know, downtown LA, it's really a center for dining, and it has some of the most popular and lauded restaurants across LA. One of the big ones in downtown LA, it's called Bottega Louie, and this one, if you take a look on Yelp, it has 14,225 reviews. I mean, that is a crazy number of views, and it has 4 stars. We're kind of like French-inspired food. It's got a really good bakery, too. When you go buy it in downtown LA, it's always got a long line. Also, there's a place in the Arts District in downtown Los Angeles called Bestia. Bestia has 4,400 Yelp reviews, 4.5 stars on Yelp. And like, if you want to get a reservation at Bestia, you better make that like a month in advance. There's also a really neat place in downtown LA called Grand Central Market. It's like this food hall that used to be really popular back in the day, almost went out of business, and now it's really having a resurgence, and it's a great place to get kind of a quick and cheap place to eat. There's also a place called Blue Bottle Coffee. These new premium coffee places are open up. I think Blue Bottle comes out of San Francisco. It's pretty good coffee. You know downtown Los Angeles on the map when it has a Whole Foods. A Whole Foods recently opened in LA. And you can also get some history in LA. There's a place called Philippe's. And Philippe's invented the French dip sandwich. Yes, that's right. By the way, if you want to know more about things to do in downtown LA, I've also got a whole bunch of travel guides about downtown LA. You can check out a link to my playlist in the description. I'd also like to point out that Brigham Yen, he's watching the live stream. He said thanks for the shout out. He's excited about this video. So Brigham, if you've got more things, chime in and I'll read them out as comments. Brandon says hello. Kirk says, what up, my ninja? Kirk also asks if I consider Chinatown and Koreatown part of downtown. I would consider Chinatown to be part of downtown. I would not consider Koreatown to be part of downtown. Generally, I consider downtown LA, it's sort of bounded by a couple freeways, so it's a pretty tight-knit area. Chinatown's kind of on the end of it. LA Live is sort of on the other end. One of my favorite parts of downtown Los Angeles is Little Tokyo. Speaking of food, downtown Los Angeles has these like little sort of ethnic neighborhoods. Little Tokyo, Chinatown, there's sort of a historic Mexican neighborhood, and so you can get really good food in those areas. And I will say the food in Little Tokyo, the Japanese food there, rivals a lot of Japanese food I've had in Japan, particularly Daikokyo ramen. And I probably mispronounced that, but there's a ton of ramen joints that are all super delicious. Jake McShane asks and says, is it safe to go downtown at night? And I'm going to answer this as a yes, however, comma. I think downtown LA has a lot of safe parts of it, though there's a lot of parts of it that are questionable too. I would just say probably stay away from the Skid Row neighborhoods, stick to Little Tokyo, LA Live, the district where the museums are, and I think you'll be pretty good at night. Luke Monroe joined, so hey Luke, thanks for joining. And Kirk said, he's laughing out loud, not safe. I mean, it is not as safe as like Tokyo is at night or someplace like that. If you're paying attention, I think it's all good. I think every big city has a certain element to it. The second reason to go to downtown Los Angeles is that it's really becoming a center for culture and art. And so in downtown LA, the New York Times actually called the LA Philharmonic the best orchestra in America, period. And that is really interesting that the New York Times mentioned this about something in Los Angeles. There's also a new museum that opened up in downtown LA called the Broad. If you've never been to the Broad Museum, it is a really neat contemporary art museum. It's a private museum, but admission is free to it. And you have to make reservations ahead of time, but it is really one of the most impressive museums I think I've been to. Also one of the biggest, most popular music conservatories in the country is located in downtown LA. It's called the Colburn School. There's an architecture and design museum opening up that's called Hauser Wirth. And they have other locations in Zurich, London, and New York. And this is now coming to downtown LA. It's opening up in the Art District. The Art District used to be kind of like a former collection of warehouses, but there's a lot of new artsy things that are opening up there. Let's see, what else about art? So a little less on the real big artsy thing, but pretty neat. There's a place called the Ice Cream Museum. The Ice Cream Museum, it actually started from New York City, moved to LA. It's a big pink building, and it's really more of a place to go to get like Instagram pictures, but it is pretty neat. The Arts District, while it's another one of those places that you might walk around and feel it's questionable because it looks questionable. I mean, there is a store called the Pie Hole that sells $7 slices of pie. And so if they're selling $7 slice of pie, and next to it there's a place that sells sausages that are like exotic sausages, like rattlesnake sausages. And so actually a lot of great things are moving to downtown LA. And part of this whole thing about 10 reasons to go to downtown LA, it's really becoming more of a tourist destination. If you would have told me 20 years ago you were visiting downtown LA, I would have told you not to go because frankly, there wasn't much of anything in downtown LA. But all these things are things that have really been coming about in the last 20 years, in particular, probably the last 5 years. And Brigham wanted to clarify that new Hauser Wirth art gallery, it is now open. That's a great part. If you follow his Facebook page, he'll detail all the what's gonna open, what's opening, and things like that. Uncle Chuckles comments that Skid Row is kind of different. Yeah, Skid Row is kind of different. That is one of the things to realize about downtown LA. Skid Row is like a 60-block area that's basically legal to camp out and be homeless at night. So that is pretty well contained to that area at night. Kirk asked, have you done a Kiklavia? I'm not sure what that is, so I probably haven't. Brandon said, yup, good things coming to DTLA and the area as a whole. It is really... it's really transformed quite a bit. And I will say, being from San Diego, one of the things I've witnessed is downtown San Diego transforming from an abandoned collection of warehouses and strip clubs that nobody wants to go to being the Gaslamp District that has all the high-end hotels, the San Diego Convention Center. I mean, if you've been to San Diego, downtown San Diego is quite nice. And if you come here now and you hadn't been here 20 years ago, you wouldn't know that it was completely awful. And so LA is like somewhere in this curve that it's becoming awesome. It's like good. And then in a couple of years, it'll be super awesome. On Facebook, Ben Dow joined. He said, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Ben. Ben says he's going to the Broad this year. He can't wait. Ben, make sure you make a reservation ahead of time. You get a little code on the mobile app. Otherwise, you won't make it in. Claire said, do homeless people stay in downtown? Do they approach you? It depends on what part of downtown you're in. They do beg for money and things like that, and that is kind of part of the character of downtown LA. If you're up on the hill, kind of where the museums are, then I find a lot of the homeless people don't like to make it up on the hill because it's, high and tall. And so, there's just certain neighborhoods there in particular. LA Live is also a pretty good place that they typically don't go to. Kirk commented and said, Kiklavia is when they shut down the streets to automobile and everybody rides their bikes. I've not done that, but I've seen it, so that's pretty cool. Have you done that? Jake asked if I've tried the rattlesnake sausage. I think I did. I think I had the rattlesnake sausage, and I think it was kind of dry, actually. I think I prefer the bratwurst better. Kirk asks, have I rode the Angels Flight Railway since it reopened? Right, so for those of you who don't know what the Angels Flight Railway is, it is the, I think, shortest railroad in the world or something like that. There's this hill in downtown LA called Bunker Hill. Grand Central Market is on the bottom. There's kind of the museum district on the top, and there's this railroad that'll take you up the hill. It's something like 25 cents to ride the Angels Flight Railway. I rode it something like 7 or 8 years ago briefly when it reopened. I have not been back to ride it since it's reopened just recently. I'm curious, Kirk, have you ridden it since it reopened? Or what about you, Brigham? Have you ridden the Angels Flight Railway since it reopened? Claire says cold. Is it cold in downtown LA? I don't think Los Angeles really gets that cold at all. I mean, it gets kind of cold, but never like snowy, super cold. Nothing like New York City or places that are super cold. I mean, that's part of the reason why people love to live in LA, because the weather, people often describe it as perfect. Except when it's in the summer, it's really hot and it's smoggy, but that's a whole different story. David joins and says, hello from New Zealand. Your videos are great. Thanks for joining, David. I appreciate it. All right, let's go on to number 3. The third reason to visit downtown Los Angeles is skyscrapers. And so LA has the tallest skyscraper in the West Coast. It's called Wilshire Grand, is 1,100 feet tall. Now, there's many more high-rises being built across downtown LA. One that is particularly cool and recently became particularly cooler, kind of an iconic one on Bunker Hill. It's the U.S. Bank Tower. You can see U.S. Bank at the top. It is 1,000 feet high, and they have a glass slide on top of it. Claire Lowe asked if there's any kids-friendly places to visit in downtown LA. I think this is actually one of the best places for kids to visit because it's a cool observatory. You can see all of downtown LA from there, and you can ride this glass slide from the top floor to like one floor down. So how many times can you ride a slide and see down like tons and tons of stories? It's pretty neat. It is called the OUE Sky Space because the company that I guess bought the building or manages it calls it OUE. And I do have a video on that too if you want to check it out. You can find it in my LA travel guide playlist. And another great place for views in downtown LA. It's not really a skyscraper anymore. It was back in the day when they built it. It's the LA City Hall. The LA City Hall has a big tower on it, and you can actually go in the tower onto the top of it to see the view from LA City Hall. Most people don't know that, and they don't really have any signs that tell you, but you can walk in the City Hall, just tell the guards that's what you're there for, and they'll let you in, and you can head up there. We'll go to the comments, and then we'll go to number 4. Tanner Wilson comments and says, downtown Dallas has come a long way, but one big eyesore is a poorly planned bike share system that has random bikes everywhere. Tanner, that's too bad that Dallas hasn't figured that out. Downtown LA is doing a lot more striping of bike lanes and things like that. One place that it really works in the Los Angeles metro area is Santa Monica. Santa Monica and Venice Beach has this like super awesome bike share system that they have bike racks almost everywhere to pick up these bikes, apps to find them. It is super fantastic. Kelstar comments and says, LA weather reminds me of Sydney. I've not been to Sydney, but I will take your word for it. So thank you, Kelstar. Kirk asks if I'm an LA Lakers fan. I am not really a sports fan, so I wouldn't really call myself a fan of any sports team. Growing up in Southern California, I'm a big fan of like outdoor things. Why do I want to go sit in a stuffy sports stadium when I can go to the beach or go ride a bike? That's just my perspective. I find most of the people that are sports fans in Southern California are people who have moved here from colder places where the weather's not as good, where you can't actually do sports most of the time, so you watch sports. Brandon asks he would like to slide on it, or says, I think that's the OUE Sky Space. He totally should. Kirk asks if I've eaten a Los Angeles bacon-wrapped hot dog. You mean like the hot dogs on the streets that the vendors sell? I have not had one of those. I'm probably not that adventuresome. But I have eaten the bratwurst at the sausage place, which is pretty good. Kirk says, tell them about the traffic in downtown LA. Great. So traffic about downtown LA. And then Claire asked this question as well. How do you get around in downtown LA by car? So this is going to bring us to number 4, which is downtown Los Angeles is the hub of a growing transit system. Actually, I think getting around downtown Los Angeles is one of the best reasons to get there. And when people think of Los Angeles, they think of like the world's most worst traffic ever. And I mean, it's not the world's worst traffic ever. Certainly like Beijing and places like that have worse traffic. LA as a city on the freeways, the traffic's really bad. But the great thing about being in downtown Los Angeles is you're almost isolated from the freeway traffic. Like if you're staying in a hotel or an Airbnb or something in downtown LA, you can get around downtown LA by your feet, by subway. Yes, LA has a subway. Many people don't know it. LA does in fact have a subway. And downtown LA is the hub of this growing transit system. Did you know that there are as many rail lines that serve downtown Los Angeles as serve Chicago? Yes, it is actually true. They're starting a new thing called the Purple Line. They recently completed the Expo Line. The Expo Line was this great weighted link that'll take you from downtown Los Angeles all the way to Santa Monica to the beach. So now you can get from downtown LA to the beach on the Expo Line by public transportation. They're building links to LAX, which is the airport. That's coming soon. And, a sign that, like, LA is really trying to figure it out. And, like, a lot of big cities, Tokyo, New York, they'll have, like, shops in the subway. And so there's a new Dunkin' Donuts that's opening up at LA's busiest subway station, the one at 7th Street and Metro Center. And so actually, as Ben just commented on Facebook, he said it's a good subway. Actually, Los Angeles' subway is quite good. And a lot of people ride it, they wonder where all the people are. But if it goes where you want to go, it's super great. And if you're staying, say, in like downtown Los Angeles and you came to visit Universal Studios, you can take the subway downtown LA up to Universal Studios. You can also take the subway to Hollywood from downtown Los Angeles. So that's what I would say. If you're staying in downtown LA, you're around there, you actually don't really need a car. You can walk, you can take transportation, and we'll talk more about walking and things like that in one of the other points. Kirk asked, what kind of bike did you have? And I guess that was when I was talking about the bike share thing. I don't know, like, it's a bike share bike. I don't know how really to describe what kind of bike that is. It had a few different speeds. There's like an app, it gives you a code, you push a button, you get the bike out. I don't know, it's a bike. Brandon says, I would visit SoCal for the weather. The weather here is pretty good. Kirk says you should do a DTLA versus Hollywood versus Santa Monica, where to stay as a tourist video. All right, Kirk, I will take a note of that as a future topic for a live stream. By the way, if anybody else has any other ideas on live streams, feel free to let me know, because I'm always looking for ideas to do these things on Monday. So DTLA, Hollywood, Santa Monica. All right, cool. So next comment is, can you tell me what the attraction is at 7722 Reseda Boulevard, apartment 102? I cannot. That sounds like something out of a rap song, though. Christopher Rogers asks, is that a G-Shock watch? Yes, this is a yellow G-Shock watch, in case you're wondering. And Ben also comments and says, the light rail is great. It takes you from Venice to downtown. Technically Santa Monica, that you can then head over to Venice Beach, but yes, pretty much the same thing. And Ben says he'll do it with me. All right, Ben, we'll do it. Sounds good. All right, we'll go on to number 5. The 5th reason to visit downtown Los Angeles is about the architecture. Downtown Los Angeles has one of the biggest collections of historic high-rises in the country, making up the bulk of this neighborhood in downtown Los Angeles called the Historic Core, which kind of runs along Broadway. Broadway is the main street in downtown LA, and actually the shopping on Broadway, it's the major like bus transit system through downtown LA, and it's some of the most profitable like ground floor retail space in all of Los Angeles. But the shops, I'll say on the ground floor, they've gotten kind of cheesy. They're souvenir stores, but you look up and they are these amazing historic buildings. Also, downtown LA was home to these multi-million-dollar theaters. A lot of them are being refurbished and remodeled. They have like one day a month that you can take a tour of these different theaters. But these once forgotten buildings, they're being restored, they're being saved, they're being converted to new uses like hotels, lofts, creative offices. The LA City Library is one of the most famous Art Deco buildings, built in the 1920s. You can go inside and take a look at it. One of the best examples in the U.S. of postmodern architecture is the Walt Disney Concert Hall, which has nothing to do with Disneyland, except that Walt Disney gave the money for the concert hall. But it's this amazing metal flowing structure. You can take free tours of it. And what's funny is it's got like all these metal and all these different shapes and directions. And when you take a tour of the building, when I took a tour of the building, there was someone who was an architect, and they asked the tour guide, does this building leak? Because, you know, this building is so, like, crazy angles, it must leak. And actually the person giving the tour was like, you must be an architect. Only architects ever ask us this question. And everybody who's an architect knows that any building like this always leaks. So I just thought that was hilarious. Also, there's a building called the Bradbury Building, and there's a number of famous movies that were shot in there, including Blade Runner. So if you want to see a lot of movie history, you know, things you've seen on TV, head to downtown LA and you'll see a lot of things. You're like, I saw that in a commercial, or I saw that in a movie. There's this couple of these bridges in downtown LA that go over the LA River. It's called the LA River. I guarantee you've seen the LA River in movies and things like that. It's a big cement basin that has like a little tiny river that runs through it. Anyway, these bridges are super popular for car companies to do car commercials on. You'll see the bridge and then you'll see the commercial. You'll be like, I've been there. So that's a super cool reason to come. Kirk asks, have you been to the Magic Castle exclusive dinner club in Hollywood? Kirk, I do not think I am cool enough or, how do I phrase this? Rich enough or have connections enough to make it to the Magic Castle. They probably want me to wear something more dressy than my yellow shirt. So I have not been there. Eric asks if I've been to Los Angeles Chinatown. Yes, Eric, I have been to Los Angeles Chinatown, and it is a very interesting neighborhood to visit. It's like, I don't know how to phrase this. It's certainly not new China. It's like 30, 40 years ago China. But there are a lot of interesting like markets there on the weekends, and a lot of the up-and-coming food there is in Chinatown. Cool architecture too, because there's a lot of these like really Chinese-looking buildings that are in Chinatown. Brandon says he loves the look of the Walt Disney Concert Hall. It is a really neat place. Oh, something else interesting about the Walt Disney Concert Hall. It's got these big metal panels, and the big metal panels, they reflected the sun, and they reflected so much of the sun that they actually they were like shiny. They had to buff them down so they became less shiny because literally the apartment building across the street, like the sun was going in there like melting candles and things like that. It was so hot. The unintended consequence of building a building entirely out of metal. Claire Lowe on Facebook asks, is Costco in downtown? There is unfortunately no Costco in downtown Los Angeles. There are plenty of Costcos around LA, but you will not find a Costco in downtown LA. I think the real estate is too big. EAG65 says, this man deserves millions of views. EAG, I agree. Thanks for agreeing. Feel free to let your millions of friends know to come over here. And he said, your content is so night quality, it's crazy how you haven't blown up yet. All right, I'm just waiting for it. Thank you. OC Girl said, if you're in DTLA on the weekends, you'll likely see movies or TV being filmed. And she's absolutely right. Actually, when you're in downtown Los Angeles, they particularly do it on the weekends. They'll like be closing off streets. You'll see a lot of police there to close it off. They'll also post a lot of these posters that'll tell you in a certain area that they'll be filming a movie at what time, so that like if you walk through there, that you might actually be on a movie. Sometimes it's cool because you get to see a movie being filmed. Sometimes it's not cool because you'll want to go to something and it's closed because they're filming a movie at it. But I'll say overall, pretty cool. Kirk asked, when's the last time you've been to Chinatown in Los Angeles? Probably about 6 months ago. I would say 6 months ago we were checking out Chinatown in LA. we were there for some other reason. We were like going to have dinner. We were between things, and so we spent a couple hours checking out Chinatown. Casey Nguyen asks, were you at Raising Cane's yesterday? Casey Nguyen, I was at Raising Cane's yesterday. So, well done. Were you at Raising Cane's yesterday? Mark Perez says, when is your next trip to Asia? That's a great question mark. Question mark. That's funny. It's a great question mark. Boom. It is a great question mark. We just came back from Asia. We just came back from Kyushu, Japan. We're there for a week and a half or something. So probably a little while before we go back again. I mean, we have to wait like maybe till later in this year or something like that. But we really don't have our next vacation planned yet, having just come back from one. Kirk asks, will you be going to Disneyland's Wine and Food Festival this year? We probably will. We go to Disneyland all the time. And so, we probably don't have planned to specifically go there for that, but I'm sure we will end up there when it's there because we go there so much. Ben says, if you see Chris, go up to him. Absolutely. If you see me, one of the things that I always do if you see me is kind of like one of those things to say, hey, you found me, is I carry some Yellow Productions cards with me. So I'll give you this, and then you can say, hey, you found Yellow Productions. All right. Brandon says, same here, you deserve the views. Thank you, Brandon. And yes, OC Girl says we were going to have the Bauhaus. Thank you for the reminder. So there's a place in downtown LA called Bauhaus. It's in Chinatown, and they specialize in like Chinese, Taiwanese steamed buns with like pork and things like that. And then they had some like hours where they didn't open till like 6 o'clock, so we had to wait a couple hours before we had our buns. So we walked around Chinatown. All right, the sixth reason to go to downtown Los Angeles are the hotels. Downtown Los Angeles didn't used to be a place that you wanted to stay. Like, the hotels there were lousy. But some of LA's poshest new hotels are opening in downtown Los Angeles, including someplace I'm going to have to stay, which is a new 5-star Park Hyatt Hotel. Yes, you heard that right. Park Hyatt Hotel opening up by the Staples Center by LA Live. That'll be near the JW Marriott. JW Marriott, LA Live, one of my favorite hotels in LA. Great hotel, very nice. There's also a 5-star Nomad Hotel opening up from New York City, the ultra-hip Freehand Indigo Hotel, and there'll be a new 900-room Intercontinental Hotel located at the Wilshire Grand. That was the tallest building I told you about, which will have the tallest rooftop bar in the Western Hemisphere. And so a lot of people on my Los Angeles travel guides ask me and say, Chris, what's the best place to stay in Los Angeles? And obviously, that's kind of a difficult question to answer with kind of a nebulous question because LA is so huge without understanding where they want to stay. It's like sort of hard to advise them, but I almost always advise, like if I just have to give a place, I say downtown Los Angeles near LA Live. It has the newest hotels, it has the best hotels, and frankly, it's one of the best connected places in LA to public transportation. And as I mentioned, traffic in LA can be maddening. And so if what you're doing is going to Hollywood, you're going to Universal Studios, you're going to visit Wilshire Boulevard, to LACMA, the LA County Museum of Modern Art, then you can just take public transportation from downtown Los Angeles, or take an Uber and you don't have to be frustrated with traffic. That's why it's a great place to stay there. OC Girl mentioned that Bauhaus we ate at, the owner of it is the guy in the TV series Eddie Huang in Fresh Off the Boat. If you haven't seen Fresh Off the Boat, it's kind of like this comedy show about a group of Asian people that are new in the U.S., and so it's got like the book there and things like that. Okay, Tanner Wilson asks, are there any good Central America themed restaurants in LA? Central America themed restaurants. That's a difficult one to answer. I'm sure there are, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. There's a lot of Peruvian restaurants. I think Peruvian is particularly popular. And on Facebook, Joshua Pickles joined. He waves. Mr. Pickles, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. So here's a wave back and a like for that, which maybe that worked. Here's a like for that. All right, well, that like button isn't working. Kelstar says, tell all your friends to subscribe. You know you want to. Thank you, Kelstar. I appreciate it. Landscaper Ben just moved from Facebook over to YouTube, so Landscaper Ben, thanks for joining. Eric asks, are you going to Denver, Colorado for your next trip? Eric, I do not think Denver, Colorado will be our next trip, but it may be a trip in the future. Like a lot of times we go there to go to Vail or things like that to see snow. Denver itself isn't usually a destination. Brandon says he can't wait for that review at the Park Hyatt LA. Hey, I can't wait to stay there, so I'm looking forward to it. Landscaper Ben says, we are going there for a drink, obviously to that tallest bar. If it's open when you're here, yeah, that'll be awesome. Picard versus Kirk asks, do you have a personal connection to Japan since you have been there so many times, or you just like it? Yes, my personal connection to Japan is I just like it. It's super awesome. But no other personal connections rather than that. I just think Japan's a great place to travel. It's pretty inexpensive. There's lots of different stuff to see. Landscaper Ben says there's an amazing Mexican restaurant in downtown Los Angeles. Okay, Ben, what is it now? Now that you've told us there's an amazing one, what is the amazing one? OC Girl asks, is there King Taco in downtown LA? I don't know if there's a King Taco. There's a Guisados, which has really good tacos. And I've got a whole Cheap Eats video about downtown Los Angeles, so you can check that out. I'm curious, though, Ben, what the one you really liked was. Casey Nguyen says, I wasn't sure if it's you or not, or I would come and say hi as you were walking out. Well, Casey Nguyen, if you see me again around the area, then yes, it's probably me. Claire Lowe asks on Facebook, how do you go to Disneyland all the time? Do you purchase some kind of annual tickets or lifetime tickets? Yes, Claire, we have annual passes to Disneyland because we're just big kids at heart. Claire Lowe asked about Medieval Times. I've never been to Medieval Times. Medieval Times, it's in Anaheim, so it's like south of downtown Los Angeles. It's a famous jousting dinner restaurant. Like they have these jousts. We have never been to Medieval Times. Okay. Yes, and Brigham says there's no King Taco in downtown LA, and he has a frowny face, which tells me Brigham is truly an LA local. I mean, I know he is because if you watch his video, you'll find out he grew up in Monterey Park. But the frowny face tells me that he loves King Taco, which Brigham means I love you already. All right. Number 7, the 7th reason to go to downtown Los Angeles. I'll start with one of the things people always say, and then this is the reason you should go. People tell you, the reason I hate Los Angeles is like nobody walks in LA. Well, not anymore. Let me tell you, downtown LA actually has a lot of pedestrian activity. And it goes kind of counter to the rest of the suburbia paradigm that gridlocks the rest of LA. In downtown LA, walking is normal. And that is a surprise to most people who think about Los Angeles. Because everybody thinks about Los Angeles as a car-centric metropolis. But you can literally hang around downtown LA for days without a car. Ben, who's from Australia, when he was in LA, they spent a few days there and no rental car. You need to get a rental car if you're going someplace like far afield to Malibu or things like that, but if you're staying in central LA, not a big deal. Transportation's actually pretty good. You could spend a couple days just exploring downtown LA if you're coming from far away, or if you're coming from someplace like in Southern California, you can make a day trip to LA, spend a whole day just exploring downtown LA. I mentioned this earlier, but my favorite part of downtown LA is Little Tokyo. So if you go to downtown LA, make sure you go to Little Tokyo, get lunch or dinner there, check out a ramen spot, check out a noodle spot, check out a tendon spot. We talked about Chinatown, that's a little tired. But one of the coolest things to do in downtown LA, I think, are take some walking tours. There's a number of people that offer walking tours. You can sign up ahead of time, pay for them. We've taken a few walking tours. There's also a really cool app on phones, and this app is called Detour, and it's like if you're, you're like driving on the road and they've got road construction, it's called Detours, and of course my Detour app isn't working, but here I've got walks from Washington DC, but it's got walks of Chinatown, Little Tokyo, it's got these guided walks through downtown LA. So I'd suggest if you don't want to sign up for one of the guided tours, you can get the Detour app and pay $5 for the audio guide. It's got turn-by-turn navigation. Really cool way of exploring downtown Los Angeles is via the Detour app. And no, this is not a sponsored video by Detour. I just think it's a really neat app, and they have really neat walking tours. OC Girl commented about King Taco, said it's too bad because it's my favorite Mexican place. It is my favorite Mexican place anywhere. Mark Perez says, what can you tell us about the La Brea tar pits? I can tell you, I have a whole video about the La Brea tar pits. The La Brea tar pits are pretty awesome. I would not consider them in downtown LA. They're slightly outside of downtown LA. But La Brea tar pits, they're this place where like oil bubbles up out of the ground, tar bubbles up out of the ground. LA is sort of famous for oil and things like that. And the tar pits, this is big area with oil that's in the center of LA. And there's like a museum where you can see bones of like elephants and things like that were trapped in there. You could pay to go to the museum. If you don't want to pay, it's just cool to walk around the park that has this like big lake that's black because of all the oil. I mean, it's sort of neat. I've been in the museum, I think it's kind of lame, but I think it's cool to walk around the park and see the bubbling oil. And then walk more than just around the lake, but walk around the park that has like these grassy areas that like oil just kind of like randomly bubbles up in the park, and they put a cone on it because this oil bubbles up. That's where tar comes from that they asphalt the streets with. Kirk says, I thought it's called Japanese Village, not Little Tokyo. Little Tokyo is the name of the neighborhood, and then there's a little street there that's the Japanese Village. But the neighborhood itself is called Little Tokyo. And actually, like, downtown LA has a lot of different neighborhoods. So Little Tokyo, Chinatown, the Toy District, the Fashion District, the Arts District. So there's a lot of these different neighborhoods in there. Brigham Yen says, take the Metrolink or Amtrak into Union Station to visit downtown LA. If you're from SoCal, including San Diego, no car needed. Brigham's right. Amtrak, Metrolink, there's a lot of different things that go into downtown Los Angeles. And the downtown LA Union Station, actually one of the coolest train stations around. It's this old renovated train station, super classic. It's in my video on things to do in downtown Los Angeles, but it's a neat attraction in and of itself. Mr. Pickles wanted to correct me that it is not elephants that fell in the tar. It was mammoths at the La Brea tar pit. So thank you, Joshua Pickles. And I was looking at your emoticons to see if they're different, but they're two elephants. I would have been impressed if you would have found like a mammoth emoticon and an elephant emoticon. Claire asked, is it possible to travel that much with kids? Wish we could be like you. Claire, I think, there's somebody that has a YouTube channel that's like traveling full time with 10 kids. I mean, I don't know that I would do that. But hey, it's certainly possible. I think obviously with kids, it's certainly better to have a car because it's easier to shuttle them around. OC Girl points out that Union Station is also really popular for engagement pictures. So if you're getting engaged, then you can check out Union Station. Kirk says, do you have a Smorgasbord LA video yet? Have you been? That's two questions. I do not have a video yet. Yes, we have been. We went to Smorgasbord LA pretty soon after it opened. We probably should go back again and do an actual video on it. But for those of you who aren't familiar, Smorgasbord is sort of like a weekend market that started up in New York City, primarily for food. They've opened up near downtown Los Angeles at it's like the fruit or produce market or something, but the fruit and produce market isn't open on weekends, and so they have this like food market. And so it was just sort of getting going when we got there, and I think I was hungry and I wanted to eat more than I wanted to shoot video, and it was like super hot on that day, but that would be a good thing to do. Yes, OC Girl says, we were there in the middle of July, and it was, sometimes the heat in LA can be a little oppressive in the middle of the summer, especially if it's outside. But the FIFA Adidas says, I'm from Singapore and I'm going to LA. I'm from Singapore, going to LA is going to cost a lot, but want to go there someday. Okay, FIFA. I mean, I think actually flights from Singapore to LA are pretty inexpensive. I mean, when I go the other direction, LA to Singapore, I can fly to Singapore for like $500, $600 US. So check out flights on United because they often have really good deals, and they just started up direct flights Singapore to LAX. Jake McShane asks, would you ever consider living in downtown LA? Yes, I would consider it. Would I ever do it? If I worked in downtown LA, it might be interesting to live in downtown LA and like one of the high rises. I mean, I think particularly like where like the Whole Foods is, like if you live near a market and things like that, I think it might be cool to live there for a while. I don't know that I want to live there forever. But as Brigham pointed out in his TED Talk, the population in downtown Los Angeles 20 years ago, like, nobody lived there. And I'm going to quote this statistic totally wrong, so this is an approximation. But it's something like in the last 5 or 10 years, like, the population downtown LA has tripled. You know, there used to be nobody living there. Now there's about 60,000 people living there. They're building more apartments, more condominiums, and so it's becoming a better place to live than it used to be. And I think that's part of what's making the coffee shops and things like that popular, is people are actually living there. Mr. Pickles says he would rather live near a Costco, which I would agree with him. For those of you who saw when I lived in Washington, D.C., if you've seen the video of my apartment, I lived across the street from a Costco, and actually it is super awesome to live near a Costco than a Whole Foods. Claire asked, what airline do you take from LAX to TPE? China Airlines or United? United in that case goes through San Francisco, but United to Taipei is also another like $600 round trip, so super cheap. So we'll take the San Francisco connection for that. Kimberly says, have you been to the 626 market? And so, for those of you who don't know, the 626 market, it's like an Asian-themed night market in LA. Kimberly, is that the one that's at the Santa Anita racetrack? If it is, we've been there. They also host some in Orange County that we've been to, like the 949 night market. They're pretty interesting, though we end up finding them more expensive than they should be, particularly compared to night markets in Asia. And then the other thing that I sort of have against some of the Asian-themed night markets that pop up is I feel like, as compared to, say, like the fair, like the Los Angeles Fair, the people who go to Los Angeles Fair are like really professional about it. But the people who go to these night markets, they're like restaurants that like set up once a month in the stall. And I often feel like they haven't really super figured out how to cook food outside and have it be really tasty and be awesome and keep flies away like as much as things like they have at the fair. Chris Wood says, I live across the street from a Costco. Chris Wood totally does, which is a place to live. Jake McShane says, is downtown LA a good place to bring your dog? There's a lot more dogs in downtown Los Angeles. There's not a lot of grass in downtown LA. There's like a new Grand Park or things like that. But it does seem to be becoming more dog friendly, but not a place you'd really throw like a frisbee at them or anything. Jazz This says the inundation of cars and pedestrian traffic would probably make it quite stressful, at least for someone like myself. Yeah, Jazz This, I mean, I guess if you're not like a city person, then downtown LA could be fairly stressful. Kirk says parking is horrible. It is horrible. That's why you take public transportation. But Brigham says, I love living in DTLA. We're just waiting for a Trader Joe's. That would make it perfect, Brigham. You'd have like every yuppie supermarket that you need. Brigham, how long have you lived in downtown LA? And yeah, so let us know. Eddie, do you know where screenwriters hang out? Like if you want to pitch a movie or something like that, I would gather more around like the movie studios. There's like, there's Universal, Sony Pictures, Paramount Pictures, probably in the surrounding areas, those movie studios, the coffee shops, you'd probably find a lot of the screenwriters. Okay, and Kirk says Eva Air is the best. I'm going to move on to number 8. The 8th reason to visit downtown Los Angeles is about fashion retail. And so, again, 10 or 20 years ago, if you said you were going to go shopping in downtown Los Angeles, I don't know what that would have been. Well, it might have been like flea market style shopping. There's like Santee Alley that you can get like really cheap clothes. But there's a lot of really high-end stores that are coming into downtown Los Angeles, making it kind of akin to New York City's Soho district. And one of the major areas, it's anchored by the Ace Hotel. You'll find exclusive brands like Acne Studios, APC, Tanner Goods, Incase, Aesop Theory, ALC Cost, many others. The other thing that I think really put downtown Los Angeles on the map are not these fancy brands, but there's a Target. There is now a Target in downtown Los Angeles. There's not a Costco, but there is a Target. There's also an Apple store coming soon. You know, when an Apple store comes in, that just brings everything up a notch. West Elm's coming soon. Nordstrom Rack just recently opened. H&M and Vans is opening a flagship store. So actually a lot of cool shopping. Colleen on Facebook asks, do you ever do any camping? Yosemite is beautiful. Colleen, I do not do camping. I have like this whole camping horror story from when I was a kid that it was like raining in my tent. And I just had the most awful experience camping the last time I did it, which was a long time ago, and I've not been camping since. Anna Toy says, any tips on traveling with the least out-of-pocket expense? Credit card, airline points, etc. Anna, I have a video all about how to travel cheap and comfortably that talks about points and airline points. If you take a look at my description of this video when you're done, find the link to my playlist on live streams. Then in there you can find that one about traveling cheap. Claire says, could you tell me more? $600 LAX to TPE round trip. Yes, it is about $600 LAX to TPE round trip on United. I don't know what more to tell you about that other than go to United.com, punch in some dates, LAX to Taipei, and if you pick the right dates, then they come up for about $600. We've done it a couple times. And Claire says, remember to drink some water. Okay, yes, I will drink now. Because I haven't had the opportunity to show off my yellow Dickies cup today. I'm not sponsored by Dickies, but Dickies has the big yellow cup. It's a pretty good barbecue, too. Brigham says he has lived in LA for several years, always drawn to the city life like NYC. Now I'm so glad LA has an option for those who desire LA urban living, not just suburban. Brigham, I agree with you, and it's great that there is housing in LA too. And one of the things Brigham said, I think in his TED Talk, or someplace else I was reading it, was that, and actually I'll get to it in number 10, but I'm going to tease at it, is that in a lot of the people that live in downtown LA really are proud about it, have a sense of pride about it, want to make it nice and do advocacy to make it nice. And so I think there's finally a community group of people that are like, we want to live here and want to make this livable. So Brigham, thanks to people like you for actually pushing that sort of an agenda. Landscaper Ben says, Chris, do you want to make a movie together? What kind of movie, Ben? The next Blade Runner? OC Girl says, probably at one of the fancy coffee shops in the art district is where you'll find screenwriters hanging out. Yeah, so she mentioned in the arts district, which is this like up and coming district of former warehouses, there are a lot of really fancy high-end coffee shops, which is sort of funny. But you know, the kind of places that you're going to get a $7 copy. And she's probably right. That is where you might find some screenwriters to hang out. Kirk says, I think Melrose is still one of the best for shopping. There are a lot of small, trendy stores on Melrose Boulevard. Brigham says he loves Target in downtown LA. So I'm glad we love Target too. Great place to park. Get the parking validated at Target as well. Josh says, I will be visiting LA, New York, and Vegas in 3 weeks. Your videos have been helpful. Josh, that's excellent. And I hope you found my videos on LA, New York, and Vegas, because I've got travel guides on all of those. If you missed one of those cities, check it out. Kirk says, have you had Howlin' Ray's? It's in Chinatown. I waited 2 hours for a chicken sandwich. It was delicious, though. Kirk, we've walked by Howlin' Ray's. We've looked at the wait. 2 hours for food is a long time. So no, we have not made it to Howlin' Ray's yet. But I'm glad to hear that you really liked it. On Facebook, Claire asks, are you confused about Japanese recycling rules? Heard it's complicated. Probably the first few times I went to Japan, but they've sort of got different trash cans about, these are burnables and plastic things, and there's about 4 different ones. I think when you see it, it's actually not that bad. The easiest thing to do in Japan, and I guess this isn't really recycling, is if you stay in a hotel, you can just throw it all away in the trash can in your room, and then housekeeping kind of like sorts it out for you and figures out what bin it goes in. Anna says, your videos are great. What places will you travel next? That is a great question, Anna. We are probably thinking of like either Thailand or the Czech Republic and Hungary. My heritage is from the Czech Republic, and so we haven't sort of figured out where that's going to be yet. But those are a couple places on our list. South Korea has also been on our list of a place we want to go to. All right, number 9. The 9th reason to visit downtown Los Angeles is about nightlife. So we talked about the night. A lot of people ask, is it safe to walk around downtown LA at night? And it didn't used to be. Downtown LA really used to be a ghost town, but now it's really becoming a center of nightlife that arguably rivals Hollywood, with countless bars, clubs, and restaurants that open late into the night, really helping to bring people to the streets, making it a lot less creepy. So one of the things I like about the LA Live District, why I recommend people stay there, LA Live District has tons of restaurants. There's like a samba club or a bongo club. There's always concerts at the Staples Center, and it feels a very vibrant place to be at night. So great nightlife in LA, which, by the way, the video that I'm going to be doing next Monday is about Kauai and Maui. Kauai versus Maui. In December, I was in Kauai, the Hawaiian island, and there's like zero nightlife in Kauai. Like when the sun goes down, like pretty much everything closes. Like if you want to have dinner in Kauai after 9 p.m., I think your options are limited to like McDonald's and Pizza Hut. Like the end. That's it. So not a lot of nightlife there. But I'll talk more about that next weekend. So tune in next weekend, Monday, 8 p.m. if you want to see Kauai versus Maui. Kirk says, please go to Thailand or Amsterdam. Flights are cheap now. Amsterdam. I've been to Amsterdam, and I think probably Thailand's higher on our list. Eddie says, yeah, forget North Korea, at least for now. We will probably not be in North Korea. And Ben says, let's do Singapore in November. Ben knows that that's often the time I have to do mileage runs. And we'll see how many miles I need, Ben. But certainly when you are here in May, we need to figure out what our Hollywood LA movie is. Ben says, our movie will be about two friends that open a franchise of In-N-Out Burger. That would be epic. Epic! Mr. Pickles says, don't mention me in Kauai. Mr. Pickles, mum's the word, I won't mention you in Hawaii. Anna says, by the way, for those of you who get the inside joke, Mr. Pickles and I, we ended up in the same hotel fortuitously when we were in Hawaii. Let's see. Claire says, any churches or churches event in downtown LA? I would imagine that, Mr. Pickle says, shh, it was a comment. Everybody can read it. So, all right. Claire says, yes. So there are certainly churches. There are churches in LA. There are churches around LA. Southern California has a lot of churches, so you'd have to kind of pick that up. Kirk asks, do you have an SPG Starwood card? Yes, I do have the Amex SPG Starwood credit card. OC Girl responds about the churches and says there's a big Our Lady of Angels church in downtown Los Angeles. And Brigham Young also said that, yes, the beautiful cathedral of Our Lady of the Angels. So check that one out, Claire. And thank you, OC Girl and Brigham. Jazz, this says, my dad showed me around LA Live a few years ago. It's a really cool place. The recently opened Park MGM on the Las Vegas Strip kind of reminds me of it. Yeah, it kind of does. I can see that. All right, number 10, we are getting to the end. All right, the 10th reason to visit downtown LA, and I teased this one, was a renewed sense of pride. A renewed sense of pride for people who live in downtown Los Angeles. People before really, I don't think had a sense of pride about downtown Los Angeles. Downtown Los Angeles was a place that people worked, and then they, would go home, and nobody wanted to live there. It became this, urban wasteland, really. And another interesting thing about LA is of downtown LA, if you go to the suburbs of LA, you go to Orange County, you go to San Diego, and you mention downtown Los Angeles, you will always hear how people hate downtown Los Angeles. You just mention it, like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going downtown Los Angeles. Why would you do that? Downtown Los Angeles is awful. I hate that place. Why would you go there? But those are people who, haven't been there for 20 years. I'll say, I don't blame them, since at one time, if you were going to LA, you'd go to the West Side. You'd go to Westwood. You'd go to Santa Monica. You wouldn't go to downtown LA. And people also, when they think of LA, they think of the great I-405 parking lot. One of the things that's always epic every year about LA, and they show it on the news, is a couple days before Thanksgiving, there's always this tremendous gridlock in LA where traffic just doesn't move. But there's this growing urban center in downtown Los Angeles like there's never been before, and it is fantastic. And one of the things, there's new events in downtown Los Angeles because there's people there and you can get there and it's easy to get there. They built this thing called Grand Park. It connects the City Hall to some other area. It's about 6 blocks that they've opened up to this green park. So they have a lot of events there. The last time OC Girl and I were there, We saw like a concert there. The other time when we were there, when we saw I saw a concert, I mean, we drove by and there was a concert. But there's like food things that are there. They host New Year's Eve celebrations every year with a countdown that people come far and wide to celebrate their great city. Claire asks, do you feel like you have to dress up to go to downtown LA? Claire, I'll tell you, I'm somebody who doesn't like feel like I have to dress up to go to almost anywhere. And most of the restaurants in LA are pretty casual. Like LA is generally a casual city. I mean, if you go to some of the higher end places, you might have to dress up. And unless you're going to that Magic Castle or something like that we talked about, like most places in LA don't have a significant dress code. Like as long as you're not wearing like ratty clothes and flip-flops, then I think you're pretty good in LA. Like for a guy, I mean a polo shirt and nice pants will get you in almost anywhere. Mr. Pickles comments says Sig Alert. Yes, LA is famous for the Sig Alert, which is the Sig Alert comes out and that means like some freeway's been shut down and it's Carmageddon, traffic, the end of the world. It's gonna be awful. OC Girl comments and says, I wish Santa Ana could be like downtown LA for Orange County. That would be fantastic. Let me go back to some questions over churches. Kirk says, what do you like better, udon or ramen? I like ramen better. Definitely ramen. Let's see. What do I like about ramen? I like ramen has like a garlicky, good garlicky tonkatsu ramen. Hakata ramen is some of my favorite. Actually, if you watch my Kyushu video, we ate at this place called, oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the place now. But it's in the video. I'm going to do a whole video just about it. Ichiran ramen. It's just like super anti-social ramen place. You order at a vending machine, you sit at a little stall, you get a ticket to order your food. It was epic. Yes, an OC girl also says Ichiran. So that place is awesome. I love ramen. I love udon too, but I love ramen better because you asked me. Eddie says, I've been to New York City to taste some of the best pizza. Where in LA is the best pizza? It's a good question. I don't know. Brigham, if you're still watching, what's your favorite place for pizza in LA? I will tell you one of my favorite places for pizza. It's actually in San Diego. It's not in LA. In San Diego, there's a restaurant called Bronx Pizza. The guys who work at Bronx Pizza, they are like literally from New York. Like they place help wanted ads in New York City to advertise for people to come to San Diego. So if you come to San Diego, eat at Bronx Pizza, it has some of the best New York pizza this side of the Mississippi River. And like if you look on Yelp, it has some of the highest reviews in San Diego for any place. Brandon says LA 2028. Obviously the Olympics coming up. Kirk comments about Carmageddon. Kirk asks if you've had the fried chicken at Knott's Berry Farm. I want that right now. So for those of you who aren't familiar, LA area has two big theme parks, and they're both in Orange County, not LA. Orange County is the county just south of LA. There's Disneyland and there's Knott's Berry Farm. Knott's Berry Farm is famous for boysenberry jam. Mr. Knott kind of invented the boysenberry. But before it was a theme park, his wife, Mrs. Knott, would sell these famous fried chicken dinners. And then this chicken restaurant, it became so busy, the lines were so long, that Mr. Knott said, well, hey, I'm going to build some rides for people to ride while they're waiting for the food. And I guess the disappointing thing about Knott's Berry Farm is it was sold. Like, it's no longer owned by the Knotts family. It was sold to more like a theme park operating company. And so the restaurant, I don't know, it's not quite as good as it used to be. I used to love the chicken and dumplings, something like that. The boysenberry pie is still really good. I just find that it's not as good as it used to be 15 years ago when it was still owned by the Knotts family. Brigham Yen also wants to remind people to attend the Art Walk. It is the second Thursday of the month. Brings in a lot of people to the historic core, especially Spring Street. Kirk asks if I've had the Taco Bell fries. I think those are the naked fries. I've not been to Taco Bell since we talked about it on a previous live stream. Ben says we need to organize a Napa versus Sonoma podcast. We do. That's another one of the Versus series we've got coming up. Mr. Pickles comments about pizza. If you're in San Diego, also check out Filippi's. San Diego has a really great little Italy community with lots of Italian food. So Filippi's has good pizza there. Jazz This says, it's funny to hear you say that. I used to live in Newport Beach, and everyone used to express their unfavorable opinion of downtown LA. I wonder if the perception is changing now in cities around LA. Jazz This, I would imagine that in Newport Beach, they probably still think that downtown LA sucks. That's probably why they live in Newport Beach and far away from downtown LA. Obviously, they're entitled to their opinion, but they're wrong. Matthew Vega says, have you ever been to Ventura? Also, how old is Topher? Ooh. Yes, I've been to Ventura. I've been there, Ventura, Santa Barbara, kind of that whole region. No, I don't have any travel guides on Ventura. Topher is maybe 12, 13 years old, something like that. But, I mean, that's how old he is in actual years. In, like, panda years, he's not more than 2 seconds old. He's, like, just born in panda years. Ben says, take me to Bronx. All right, Ben, we're in San Diego. We'll go to Bronx. Mr. Pickles says, how about organizing a fan meetup? That is a good idea, Mr. Pickles. I'm going to write that one down, too, and figure out how we do something like that. All right. Kimberly says, I have not been to DTLA in years. When I was last there, I saw some buildings while driving by, so I want to check it out again. Kimberly, you should. And if you have any questions or what to see, certainly let me know. Brigham says his favorite pizza would be Mozza, which is outside of downtown Los Angeles, but in downtown LA, Bottega Louie is not that bad. Yeah, Pizzeria Mozza, M-O-Z-Z-A, one of the most popular pizza places there. It's more like a Neapolitan-style pizza as opposed to a New York pizza. Jonathan says, I'll be in LA next month for the first time. Any tips on finding cheap parking? Yes. I guess usually when I go to downtown LA, I kind of like drive around and you'll see the signs for parking and just find a street parking lot that advertises cheap parking. One of the things you have to be careful of when you look at the signs for parking at the parking lots is to make sure that the price they advertise is an all-day price as opposed to a like per 20-minute price. Sometimes these lots have a big sign, they're like $8, but it's like $8 per 20 minutes. I mean, it is super ridiculous. Actually, I think some of the cheapest parking in downtown LA is in the Little Tokyo area. Little Tokyo has a lot of big parking lots, and you can park there and make your way around the rest of downtown LA. If we're just going to be there for a couple hours, then we might park where the Target is at this big at 7th Plaza. They do some like parking validation. Or we park around Grand Central Market. There's often some lots there that might be like $7 or $8 for the day if it's on a weekend. Street parking in LA can be super duper expensive. It's like $3 or $4 an hour during busy time. So probably don't think about parking on the street. Otherwise you need a lot of quarters. Kirk says Hearst Castle video is needed. I need to go back to Hearst Castle again to make that video. It's been a long time since I've been there. Jazz This says, sorry for the random question, but have you ever been to Ponchos in Manhattan Beach? I've never been to Ponchos in Manhattan Beach. No. I have been to Manhattan Beach, but never to Ponchos. I like Manhattan Beach. Ben says we could do a fan meet and greet in May. Well, it's certainly a small one, at least. We could do a big one, too. Kirk says we could do a fan meetup at an all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue place. We could do that, too. I enjoy Korean barbecue. All right. That's it. I've been going for 63 minutes, and means I'm thirsty. Means my voice is tired. So, I would like to thank all of you for joining the live stream today. I'd like to invite all of you to the live stream next week on Monday, where I'll be talking about the Hawaiian island of Kauai versus Maui. I'd also like to invite you all to check out Brigham's TED Talk. Check out his Facebook page. I've got links in the description below. There's a card that is to his TED Talk. So Brigham, thanks for the idea. Thanks for the content. Again, if any of you have ideas for other live streams, I'll be happy to put that on my list. I love ideas. I love to do it like this. And so thank you all. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Jazz This. And thank you, Brandon. All right. And thank you, Mr. Pickles. Mr. Pickles says, I think Ben is going to play this over and over again. Anna, see you next week, too. All right. Now I have to push, like, the finish button on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. Here we go. Finish, finish.